my friends, it's Amy again. We are on the home stretch. We are here to talk about our last step in creating our emotional map. Now, if you have gone through and done the work here, you have understood or you've created a plan, a system in place, essentially, right? For you to understand yourself, your environment, others around you, and what then triggers or creates the habit that we're trying to understand and change, and understand the emotional involvement and the mapping to get from point A to where we just mindlessly follow through or react to whatever stimuli is around us, to creating intentional, creative, and effective movement towards your goals. So I'm really, really excited for this last step. And if you have watched the last 3 videos, I'm sure that you can guess this last step. And if you can't, it's totally fine. But the last step is to practice. And we're going to talk about the 3 things that you can do to practice then this emotional map. Because not likely, everyone's map is going to be slightly different. You are unique to you, and your environment is unique to you. And so not everyone is going to have the same experiences and the same responses to each emotional experience or situation, which is why you take all of this information and make it your own. But these practices right here work for everyone. And when you build these practices into your mapping and into your everyday emotional, your system for overcoming that, when we're feeling that emotional overload and sometimes we feel overwhelmed and we don't know what to do, these practices will help us to say, okay, I do know where I am. I know how I'm feeling. I know what I really want, so I know what to do. And the first step to knowing what to do, to knowing what to practice, what to do, because the thought and the feeling isn't enough. We have to practice this. And this is something that catches me every time. Is sometimes I think, why is this happening to me? Why am I feeling this way? I should be feeling another way, when really I haven't practiced what I need to create movement or momentum towards my goals. I've just been busy doing stuff, but it hasn't been to get from point A to point Z. It's just been going around in circles. Does that make sense? So instead of going around circles and feeling like you are a hot mess of chaos and emotional overload, you can do these 3 things to create more movement towards those goals. Full disclosure, I am recording this video in our game room with my kids doing school, playing together with each other. So you're going to hear noise in the background. Okay, they've just finished school, and they like to come in and watch me make my videos. So I hope this video shows you that at any time you want to do what's important to you, you can do it. The number 1 practice that you can do that's been made the biggest difference for me is this: to do one thing. One thing. What is one thing that you can do? Often when we see point A, where we are and where we want to be, we see 50 things, but we count it as one, right? We say, I have to, for example, my son wants to become an actor. And he says, I want to act, I want to be famous in Hollywood. And here he is, a kid who wants to be an actor, and that is what he sees. He sees this huge gap of being an actor and doesn't know where to start, because it's a huge task, right? It's not just something he can do overnight. Now, you may think like, okay, how does this relate to me and my emotional habits or my ability to, be more mindful in my emotional situations so that I can develop better eating habits or whatever. Sometimes we see ourselves as unhealthy or unable to do one thing and wanting to get to another point, but all we see is that we aren't one way or we can't do something, but we don't know what's holding us back. Okay, so this one thing here will help to create some clarity in that. When we practice just one thing, and this is one thing to align your goals with your emotions, how you're feeling, and aligning your beliefs with those goals, aligning these things. So it's kind of a triangle, right? If we have this triangle here, this, up here is our goal. And the more we align our understanding, which is our values, right, and our beliefs, with the things that we do every day, so we're not just doing busy work, then we have this, and this up here is consistency. The more often we do it, the more often we can see the fruits of our labors. We can see the results of our actions. And so when you do one thing, this is not doing one thing to keep you comfortable. This is doing one thing that makes it easier for you to reach your goals. So I want you to come up with one thing that would reduce the resistance or get you one step closer to your goals. Do you want to say hi?
Mm-hmm. Hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Good job. Okay. Go away. Whoa. Okay. So now that we have the one thing, the next thing that we can do is a small substitute. Sometimes what we see is what we know we shouldn't have, but we can't think of another option. For example, and I don't know if this relates, but in my mind, this is how I think about it. If I want to practice, or if I want to develop healthier cooking habits, and my practice is to use only healthy ingredients or only natural ingredients, but for example, if a recipe calls for cream of chicken or cream of mushroom soup, for example, and you don't know, and you know that that's not healthy, you can take a small, and so you think, well, I can't cook healthy because all of my recipes that I like call for this ingredient and I can't put it in there, so it just doesn't turn out the same. Instead, you can take this and say, what's a small substitute? What is something that I can use in place of that? And often, if you do some research, you will find that there's a substitute. There's always something that you can use in place of something else. And it might change things up a bit, but that's what you want. So we're shifting our mindset from thinking we have to have things the same way to thinking we're going to make things better and have them in a way that we are happy with, right? Not only do we get to make the food that we love so much to make, but we get to make it in a way that is healthier and more sustainable for the lifestyle we want to create for ourselves. Is this making sense? So we do the one thing here. For example, if you were to say, I want to cook a healthy meal in the kitchen, but it's going to take all of these steps and I don't know which one to do first, you could say, okay, what's one thing I can do? Instead of saying I want to cook a healthy meal, you find a recipe. That's one thing that you can do, and that's one step closer to knowing exactly what you want to make. The next one thing that you could do would be to see what you have on that recipe that you don't have to go out and buy. That is meal planning at its best, when you don't have to add extra ingredients to your already full refrigerator or your small budget. And it reduces drastically the stress and the overwhelm of spending money or wasting food that you already have, right? Or the money that you want to keep. So that's an example of how to use these two things. The last step has actually nothing to do with you and something to do with those who can help you. And that is to get support. Now, I don't mean like you have to go out and find a therapist, which therapists are very, very useful. They're a wonderful support system. But for this instance, we don't need an emotional support. We don't need emotional support in these practices. If you do, that's awesome. And you know that this is the practice that you need to put in place so that you can better understand these things right here. If you can understand these things without the therapist, by all means, move forward with one of these two steps. But this one right here helps us to know who, not how. Often we get stuck and we procrastinate the things that we do because we say, I don't know how to do that by myself. I don't know how to substitute this recipe. I don't know how to cook with this tool. I don't know how to cook this food. I don't know how to prepare such and such a meal for my family. It's just easier for me to go through the drive-through, right? I don't know how to do this. So we say, okay, it's not how, it's who. Who can help you get to the point where you say, okay, now I am confident in the things that I can do so that I can reach my goals, whatever goals I'm looking for, whatever practices I can put in place on a regular basis to create this map towards my building those healthy habits and these goals, these healthy goals that I want to reach. Getting support is really, really crucial. We can stop now asking ourselves or telling ourselves we can't do something, and instead telling ourselves we can do something because I know a person who can do this. And if we don't know that person personally, like if I'm creating a flyer or a handout or something really fancy and I'm not a graphic designer, I'm gonna go look for a graphic designer in places where I know that they are, where they spend their time, on Fiverr and other websites, other platforms that help people find them so that they can give them the support they need to accomplish these goals. Is this making sense? So these 3 steps will help you in creating stronger practices rather than busyness, which is work, I say, that is just creating a circle of work that you, where you're not getting anywhere. You're just going around in circles, and instead help you create a straight line from point A to point Z and everything in between. I hope that this has been really helpful for you. I have really loved doing these videos and hope you find value in them. And if you do, will you please share this? Will you even take a screenshot and share it with me on Facebook or on Instagram and tag me? I would love to see how this is a positive influence in your life, because it has been for me. And so I hope by sharing this with you, it adds some value to your day. Take these things and put these 3 practices into place for a stronger emotional map to help you Make intentional choices towards the goals and the healthy habits that you want to create for the lifestyle you deserve to have, the healthy habits that you want to live in your life.